Look it up.
I just Googled it. I have nothing hitting up until maybe the sixth shirt on Reddit. I found it on Reddit.
Minimal moral realism. The difference was actually outlined as far as
Oh,
1994,
I found it on
and
Wikipedia.
it was published in the
Robust.
Journal of Philosophy of Mind.
I found it in Wikipedia. Robust versus minimal moral realism. But that's not.
Thank you.
But that's on Wikipedia. Those are not real
Okay,
philosophers.
that's fine. I don't listen. That's cool. That's great. Let's go. I mean, I still maintain the position that we should go to the actual primary literature and not Wikipedia. But if you want to go to Wikipedia, I mean, be my guest. I still maintain, just for the sake of being as pure as possible about this, and not to go to actual the primary literature that would make the distinction. But yes, it's important to know the distinction between minimal moral realism and robust moral realism.
So you're saying that the minimal model of moral universalism leaves off metaphysical thesis, treating it as a matter of contention among moral realists as opposed to between moral realists and moral anti-realists. This dispute is not insignificant as acceptance or rejection of the metaphysical thesis is taken by those employing a robust model. So are you just saying that there's either a metaphysical backing to moral propositions, like moral Platonism is true, or it's not the case that moral Platonism is true?
A minimal moral realist doesn't have to affirm moral objectivism. Is the fundamental difference.
Well, I don't think that anything that a moral realist. So I think that you're actually confused. And I think the literature would show that you're confused on this. I think that it's
let's
objective.
go to the literature then. That's fine.
Yeah, so I think that it's objective, but I think that there are moral realists who deflate the. I think there are more moral realists that deflate the ontological status of moral propositions, just like they deflate the ontological status of mathematics, right? But they still think it's true independent of minds. Moral realism is the thesis that it's true mind independently. They still think they're objective. They just think that it's clear, like what I'm reading here, that they just think that
Where are
it's
you
not
reading
the case.
exactly?
Well, I just think I'm saying the view here is no, I'm not reading that it is objective, but I'm reading what the view is. And moral realism as the view that moral truths are true independent.
Moral realism.
Look, where's your source? Let's just go with.
That's fine. I'll dig up. That's fine. I'll dig up the source for you. That's fine, buddy.
But anyway, all of this stuff I take to be immaterial because I asked a simple question, right? And this simple question I asked was, are the propositions true, regardless of whether they're real or not, right? Which I'm not taking to be objective in this case, right? Are the propositions true depending on what you believe or not? And you were saying, I want it to be the case that moral propositions are not true if I think that they're true. That is to say, they're true irrespective of what I believe about the truth of them. And those were your words, right? And so whether or not you want to call that an anti-realist position, it's still an objectivist position, right? Because even if you were correct that it's not a realist position, as in the way I'm explaining the view, that there's nothing metaphysical grounding moral propositions, nothing metaphysical grounding the truth of moral propositions, it still depends on something other than the mental, which makes it objective.
Yeah, I understand. Now, the truth value, yeah. So the truth value, well, actually, I may argue it's the other way around. You could be a more minimal moral realist and reject the objective nature of it. But yeah, so the normativity of it, one way to say it is it's not mind dependent, but the other way to say it is that I right now have a mind dependent view that I don't want to have, that I don't want my views, I don't want to have my principles or particulars basically I mean, I see what you're saying. You can say you can say it's not realist, but it would be some form of objectivism, or you can say that it's normative. The views I have are. Let me just try to find a way of explaining this as clearly as I can. So, is it
What's
possible?
the source that you're using?
Oh,
What's the
yeah.
source
Sorry.
that
Let
you're
me.
using?
Yeah, you want? That's fine. Well, we can do it too. Oh, yeah. Let me get my source. That's fine.
Send it to me in PM.
I'll post it in the general. Let's see. Hold on. Minimal moral realism.
Avi, it says here that moral universalism is the same thing as minimal realism. Is that correct?
Where does it say that?
According to the let me get the source. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
Minimal moral realism is the same thing as universalism.
Moral universalism. Yep.
Moral universalism. I'd have to see that.
Okay.
My understanding from what I've read is that the difference between a robust moral realist and a minimal moral realist is a robust moral realist would reject things like non-cognitivism, error theory, and subjectivism. Whereas a minimal moral realist would reject things like non-cognitivism, error theory, but they wouldn't necessarily reject subjectivism.